All right. So by the time a lot of you guys will see this replay, it's going to be in January, which is specifically what this thing is focused around, and we're going to build from there. So number one, when we're starting out on this thing, we want to talk about foundational items. So before we even jump into making content and how we post the content and how we schedule the content, we have to understand what the requirements are, what the constraints are, what do we need to be successful? Basically, how are we judged and evaluated on that? And once we have those items, that allows us to have some fun and to play into that social media playground. So it all starts with planning. And
Yeah, let's go. We came a long way. That's what the song say. And I could do all things. I could do all things. Yeah, I could do all things. Yeah. We came a long way. That's what the song say. And I could do all things.
number one in that planning part is the budgeting. So typically, a lot of companies, larger companies and organizations, and if you're not doing this, take this, write this down. Um, they do their financial planning and budgeting around October, November, just to make sure that they have the appropriate budgets and the numbers in place. And in terms of their different business areas, they actually have a sales and marketing team. And so they know what they're going to spend for those particular areas in their businesses. And unfortunately, because a lot of you guys are smaller businesses and practices, you guys aren't even thinking about that stuff. You're not thinking about annual planning as it pertains to business growth and social media and marketing. Super important because that number, that budget number, that affects what you can do. And I'm going to go into that detail right now. So, number one, content creation. How many man hours do you have or that you're going to dedicate toward content creation? Whether it's you as the business owner and you're standing on a street corner in front of your business, highlighting the presence of your business, that is time and resources, or whether it's your team and you have your team out on location, they are out of the office, you're still paying them. They're actually not bringing in revenue because they're out doing other promotional items. But again, that goes into your finances, into your budget. And then also in terms of um, just your business being down. So sometimes we may be taking time out of the day to shut the office down or to come in before or a little bit later. Well, there's expenses associated with that, whether it is turning on air conditioning, whether it is having lights, whether it is not being able to see patients or customers during that particular window. So you have to take that into consideration when you're putting that number down. So you can easily do that by just saying, okay, how many times do we want to record each month? Who do we need to be there? We need a person to hold the camera. Maybe you can have it on a tripod. You need the person to talk about the content. You may need someone to create the content. And then from there, you can adjust, see how much it really costs to make that happen. Okay, we have to have the AC. The AC costs us this much per hour. It's fundamental stuff, and this is the stuff that the accountants love, but it's super important when you talk about your numbers. So that way you're not freaking out when you actually start to do the social media stuff and start to get some promotional um, push behind it, and you say, oh wait, we don't have budget for this. And then also in terms of budget, there's other things peripheral that a lot of people don't think of. And one of the things is licensing for images and for content. So licensing can come in the form of you hiring a photographer to come out on site or a videographer to come out on site and to take these phenomenal pictures. Well, those pictures aren't free. The use of those pictures may have restrictions around them, like you can use them X amount of times or X amount of platforms or X particular platforms. But if you want to use them on different platforms, then that may have an additional fee associated with that you have to surrender, and you have to pay the fee. Don't try to copy and paste and erase the watermark out of the image, because I trust you, it's going to be more hassle than it's worth. So that's just my friendly letting you guys know that's something that you should be doing. And then in terms of scheduling costs, so scheduling costs, not necessarily scheduling time, but actually scheduling the content. You have to say who is going to post this content. So the content, you create the content, you design the content, you create the content, but then you have to post the content. Who is going to post the content? So are you going to invest in some software to do that and invest and pay somebody to use the said software to do that? Are you going to use some time for your team? Which unless it's a part of their written job description, I would highly advise against doing that. And you guys that are out there, those you hygienists and you front desk people know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not my job. That's not what I went to dental school for. It is what it is, but you've been warned. And then the other side of it is if you have an agency doing this. So agencies can post social media content and they can post it very easily. They have access to the licenses and the tools, but they're going to charge you to do that for you. It's not for free. So that also has to go into your budget. Once you understand your budget, then you get to understand what the objective is and what's your desired outcome. And so now you're playing in the toy box or the sandbox, so to say. What do you want your marketing campaign to do for 2023? So do you want to see how many new patients? Do you want to see this type of new patients? Do you want to see this type of new customer? Do you want to only see customers at this new location that you're opening and you only want to promote that? Some of you guys are expanding. Business has been really good and you're opening up multiple locations. All of that goes into play on what you're doing in terms of that. And it affects what you're going to do in your social media marketing. So for instance, some of these platforms, you can set up just one channel. So like imagine like Facebook, for instance, and you have a Facebook page. Well, you have one Facebook page for your business and you have to promote for the most part everything through that one page on your business. It's just a generic brand business, especially if you have multiple locations. But if you take that same campaign and you move it to, let's say, Google My Business, and you're posting on there, well, you have a location for each, or I guess a page per location, or a Google My Business page per location. You have to take that into consideration because then you have to have appropriate tools to post to both platforms. What are you going to say in both platforms? How are you going to say it on both platforms? If this particular location is geared toward a demographic that has X traits, and this other location has different traits, it's super important to understand what the objectives are. So that way, you know what your parameters are in terms of your marketing. So that is the intro about doing this for 2023. So I know that was like, you guys are probably like, oh man, that's not what I was really looking for in terms of 2023 for the intro. But trust me, if you take anything from this conversation that we're about to have, it's making sure that you do the planning and put the planning in place, because if you don't, things fall apart quickly. Either you don't have enough budget, you run in violation of your agreements or your contracts, you get angry people. It's a big headache. So planning is key on this activity. Anyway, I want to know your thoughts, your comments. Put them in the comments below. Again, if you have the opportunity, do that thing, smash that like button. All right, guys, I'll see you all next video.
Yeah, we came a long way. That's what the song say, and I can do all things.